Hello and welcome to Demographics Now one-on-one for Black, Indigenous, and people of color business owners. I am your host. My name is Paul Steensland, and I am a reference librarian here at the St. Louis County Library. Now, when you think of demographics, you might just think of numbers. But when I hear the word, I think of customers. I think of how do customers behave and how do customers even interact with each other and interact with your product? Uh, for instance, when you think of the customers of Apple, for instance, what sort of demographic profile do you think of in your mind? Do you think of innovators? Do you think of free thinking people? Do you think of intelligent people? Do you think of educated people? Those are the sorts of questions that, as a small business owner, you're probably already thinking about your customers in terms of who they are, what sort of interests do they have? What sort of lifestyles do they have? If you're a B2B business, you're selling to other businesses, you're thinking what sort of industries would your customers be? If you're B2C, you're thinking what sort of lifestyles, educations, and interests do your customers have? So those are the sorts of questions that the St. Louis County Library's databases can help you determine. And then once you learn a bit more about who your customers are in terms of their demographic profile, then you're in a better position to sell your product or service to them. Demographics versus psychographics. When you're thinking demographics in terms of B2C, you're thinking about terms like age, gender, occupation, education, income levels, geographic location, etc. And we have databases that can either help you determine what those age, gender, occupations would be, or if you already know those, we can help you find customers who fit into those demographic profiles. In terms of B2B, we've got databases that can help you create a list of companies based on industry, number of employees, number of years in business, products or services offered, geographic location, etc. When it comes to psychographics, I think some people might think Psycho's doing graphics, but that's not the case. Psychographics are actually who your customers are in terms of their values, beliefs, buying patterns, perceptions, whether they are culturally conservative or progressive, hobbies, whether they like to travel, whether they engage in physical fitness sort of activities. If you know those types of psychographics, you can find customers within a geographic area, for instance, that behave the same way, that have those similar psychographics. Once you have your demographic data, then what do you do with it? Well, you can use our St. Louis County Library's databases to collect your demographic data. Once you have it, you can create prospecting lists. You can create direct mail lists or door hangers, engage in social media campaigns or paid search campaigns, as well as TV and radio campaigns, cinema advertising, sports partnerships, billboard placement, and customer analysis. And we list all of those outlets for the demographic data you can create using our databases because Our customers have used our data to do this, to do those various things. Finding your customer. Who is my customer? And this is something that I think a lot of companies, especially small businesses, sometimes miss out on in terms of they're not sure exactly who their customers are. And that's something that when we do one on one meetings with customers, we'll ask them, we'll say, what sort of customers do you have? Where do they live? Uh, what are their interests? How do they behave? These are things that once we get an idea of customer profile, then we can use a resource like Demographics Now or Merchant Intellect to not only help them learn more about their customers, but also figure out, are you marketing your product or service to the right people? Meaning, if you have a geographic area that you're marketing to, and the demographics that we find don't match up to the customer's activities. Or, for instance, if we're helping a customer or we're helping one of our library customers who's a business owner try to find customers and it's not hitting home for them. Maybe the reason why is that you're targeting the wrong customers, that your customers may not be who you think they are. And looking at your customers in depth, we've got, in addition to Demographics Now, we've got a database called Statista, which, as you might expect from the name, has a number of statistics about customers in terms of, just a for instance here, I was helping a customer earlier today with a gift box company that he has founded. And he wanted to know about customers who are interested in gift boxes. So we looked at areas of the country that have a strong interest in subscribing to gift boxes. And it turns out the Midwest region is not as interested in gift boxes as other areas of the country. So that made him think, all right, maybe my customers shouldn't be in the Midwest. Just an idea of how you can use our databases to find your customers. What is your customer doing? Why are they doing it? And here we get to psychographics. Demographics Now is our primary database for psychographics, but Mergent Intellect is another base that can do that. You can actually plug in various lifestyles that match up to the types of customers you'd like to find. So if you want to find customers within a zip code who are pet owners, who are married, who use credit cards, you can set up a search in either Demographics Now or Merchant Intellect to find those types of customers. We can also find retail demand, which products have more demand, intermedia, more likely to watch TV or listen to the radio. That's something that Demographics Now in particular is good at, is telling you what types of media customers of a certain type are interested in. Some customers may be young, technologically sophisticated, so they're going to be more interested in social media or potentially email marketing, whereas older, more conservative customers may be easier reached by radio, television, or direct mail campaigns. You can look at, how do they entertain themselves? Do they gamble? Do they eat out in restaurants? Do they watch movies in movie theaters? And also cable TV. Which channels are they most likely to watch? Where is your customer? One of the nice things about our reference solutions database is you can get a map of where customers of a certain type live. You can see where, in terms of companies, you can create maps of where certain types of companies are. For instance, I was trying to find a list of pet stores in the 63113 zip code, and I couldn't find any. And so I expanded my search a little bit and found about 30 pet stores within 10 miles of that zip code. So sometimes you get a little too narrow in terms of finding your companies or your customers, but that's a nice thing about the databases is you can change up your search strategy in order to create maps to find where your customers are and where your competition might be or where partners or suppliers. For instance, you own a pet store, you're going to need various types of pet supplies. Wouldn't it be nice to know where those companies are? And both Reference Solutions and Demographics Now can help you find where certain companies and certain customers are living. So who are my current customers? One of the things I really like about demographics now is what they call mosaic profiles. These are profiles that tell you about people, about people's habits, about their interests, about how they spend their free time. And Demographics Now can help you find out mosaic profiles for a certain zip code. Again, I keep using 63113 because that's something I was working on earlier today, but we created a mosaic profile that most people within that zip code are going to match. And I'm going to show that to you in just a moment. So here is the mosaic example for 63113. We looked at the demographic profile of who lives in this zip code, and about two-thirds of the residents in 113 fit this profile. They're called urban legacies, middle-aged, sophisticated singles established in modest urban settings. So if you were a small business owner and you wanted to sell to people within this zip code, here's an illustration of who they are. It even says mostly found in the South and Midwest, typically in older sections of big cities that have struggled with unemployment and poverty for years. And again, this was not written with St. Louis in mind, but that's pretty close to what I know of the 113 zip code. So if you were looking at how do you reach them? Well, it looks like they are television viewers. They enjoy armchair sports. And what's amazing is that this is only half of the profile for, this is only half of the mosaic profile from Demographics Now. It's much larger than this. There's a lot more information, but had to cut it down for this presentation. So I've been talking mostly about B2C, but let's also talk about business to business demographics. So this is where you're selling to companies, companies selling to companies. So one way to get an idea of how large your market is to use databases like Mergent Intellect and Reference Solutions in order to create a list of relevant companies. I mentioned pet stores earlier, but you could create a list of marketing companies within various zip codes. You could create a list of coffee shops. Let's say you're interested in founding a coffee shop. Well, you might want to create a list of companies that are related to coffee shops or even coffee shops themselves so that you know where your competition is. Or you may need suppliers to supply you with the various items that you need to run a coffee shop business. So you'd create your list of companies, but you can also create a map that'll show you where these companies are in geographic relation to each other so that you realize, all right, there are a lot of coffee shops in Clayton, for instance, but fewer in other areas of the county. So does that mean that you want to create a coffee shop in Clayton because you know there's a lot of demand for coffee shops? Or would you rather not try to compete with established businesses and look for an area of the county that doesn't have as many coffee shops, but maybe could use another one? So that's a decision that you'll need to make based on your own demographic research. But St. Louis County Library has a number of databases that can help you with your B2B customer demographics. Here's an example of what I described earlier about pet shops within 10 miles of 63133. You'll notice 31 results in the upper left corner. This was done through a reference solutions database. As you can see, there are more than 31 on this page. There are actually two different pages, but here's a way to get an idea of what companies are within your zip code, within your region. You can even draw a map, to draw a radius, or actually draw your own area using your computer mouse in order to find whatever types of companies you'd like to find within that area. And that's all I've got for you today in terms of demographics and demographics now. I want to point out a few upcoming events. The big one is our small business and nonprofit conference. That's going to be from October 4th through the 6th of 2023. We're doing that in partnership with St. Louis Public Library. Both St. Louis Public and St. Louis County will have in-person events on October 4th and 5th. And then on the 6th, we'll have virtual programs like you're attending right now. And I also want to strongly recommend you get in touch with us via a book librarian. If you'd like to sit down with us and actually use these databases one on one with us, what we can do in a BAL is learn a little bit about more, learn a little bit more about the type of business that you have and show you how to use these databases with your business in mind so that we're showing you exactly what you need to see and you can let us know if what we're giving you is on target for you. You can always give us a call at 314 994 3300 and email us at reference at slcl.org. I'd like to thank everybody for coming out today. Hope you learned something. Hope you had a good time and hope to see you more for our other programs. Have a great rest of your day. Bye bye.